We'll cover another method of setting breakpoints, and we'll show how to set a breakpoint on a function. And then in addition to setting breakpoints on functions, we'll step through lines of source code again and show how to step over a function whenever you come across one, or step into it and debug into that function. So we'll start by editing a file where our source code, we'll just name this ftest.c, and we'll start a skeleton, and I'll create a function, a void function, print message, and I'll just give it a value that we can pass to it, just a random integer v. And inside the function I'll set another value just so we have some operations inside the function. And then I'll do g equals g plus 3, and then I'll print the value of g. And then we'll do our main function. And again, put some operations on here that we can step through. Just some random operations. And then we'll call the function. So we've got some source code written that will have a main function, and we'll just do some random operations just to illustrate stepping through the source code and then calling a function. And inside that function we'll just create a variable, add a value to that variable, and print that variable value out. And it's no particular point to the program other than just create something we can step through. So we'll go ahead and save that and compile it with our -g flag, and that'll give us an a.out file that we can run. So let's just run it and make sure, and it prints out that our value is g. So next we will open up GDB with our a.out. So now we're ready to just run our program. We'll just run it once and we'll see the program runs and it exits normally. So again, we'll use the list command to show the source code in our program. If we want to print the whole thing, we can just do, we see there's 22 lines, so we can do list 1 through 22 and it'll print all the lines of our source code. So what we're going to do first is, previously I showed you how we set a breakpoint for main. So what I'll do is, again, I'll set a breakpoint for main, and we'll do info b to list our breakpoints, and you can see we've got one breakpoint listed at main, and we'll run. And you see our program halted at line 16 with int equals a. So the first command that we showed was the next, and the next essentially just steps through each line of source code. So it'll tell you which line you're about to execute. So we see we're about to execute a plus equals 1. So let's print our value of a. We see a is 0 now, so let's do next. And we just executed this line, and the next line we execute will be line 18, which is a plus equals 2. So let's print the value of a, and you see it's now 1. And then we do next and next, and I'll just continue stepping through. So now we've encountered a function, and if you look in our source code, again, list 1 through 22, what print message does is it's going to increment some values and then print the value that we passed after some operations are performed on it. So here we have two options. We can use the next command, and that will step over the function, and then we'll go on to the return 0. And then I'll just illustrate this first. And you see we just executed the print message, and we didn't do any of this code inside of our print message function. We went right to the return 0, and then we're going to exit. So just want to illustrate that the next command with GDB will step over a function. So if you call a function, it will not go into that function and execute the code. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the program again, and it's going to break at line 16. So I'll hit next, 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 until we're at the point where we want to call our function. So if we want to step inside of the function, for example, we've got a function that is not exactly working like we want to step inside of it, we can use the step command, and then now we're actually inside of the print message function, and we can debug it. So we can print G, and you see this value is really high because we haven't assigned it a value yet. So use the next command, and you see we just executed line 7 inside a print message. So G will now have a value of 11, and if we do the next, we should have just added 3 to that value, so we could print the value of G again, and it's 14. And we can use the continue, and our program will continue. So that shows essentially how you can choose between stepping over a function and skipping the code inside of the function, or stepping into the function. Real quick, I'll show you the breakpoints that we have. Info B will show you all the breakpoints. So we'll delete breakpoint 1. The other option that we have is we can actually set a breakpoint for this print message function. So we could do we could create a breakpoint at print message, and then whenever we run our function, it will break once we get inside of our function. Again, just show you the breakpoints, and then we'll run it. And you can see we just broke at line 7 where we're setting our value equals G. So that's the second way we can break at this function. The other way, let's display our breakpoints one more time. Info B, and let's delete the second breakpoint. Display our code, and we see this is line 4. So if we want to break at this line, we could just do break line 7, and if we run, you see we just broke again at this line. So that's 3 ways that you can set breakpoints inside of a function, or step into the function and debug the function, or skip going into the function if you don't want to debug inside of that function at all. So I'll include the source code to this if you want to try it for yourself down below in the description.